Welcome back to our Week 9 podcast show. This is Jason from J&J Fantasy Flyers. Sitting across from me here is Greg. He'll be filling in for the other J in J&J. And while Joey is out on a hunting trip this week and next. Greg here is a pretty avid fantasy football player, and we're bringing some insight and expertise to help you along your Week 9. Now, I guess to get started, this is going to be a little bit different format than what we usually do, as it was a pretty big trade week with the deadline on Tuesday, and there has been some recent, major injury news and also some major reinstatement news. So, I guess we're just going to jump right into this and see how it goes. I guess the first thing we're going to talk about is the Josh Gordon reinstatement. What exactly it means, and is he worth keeping on your roster right now?
For me, Josh Gordon is someone I want to stay away from. His past doesn't warrant him holding down a spot on my roster, especially since we don't even know where he stands with the Browns. So he's been reinstated with the NFL, but even with that, we don't know if the Browns want him back. And then when he does make a decision whether he can play or not, at what point can he play, and what value can he really give you? They're struggling at quarterback over there. They're not sure who the face of that franchise is. So to bring him back in, I could see them just parting ways with him, honestly. Now, in deeper leagues, in some keeper leagues, deep stash leagues, maybe, right? You stash him away, but I think there's a lot better options, younger kids that aren't in trouble, that haven't had that past, that you can go with there.
I agree. I think this year in a regular season-long league, I think it's pointless at this time of the season. I don't think we don't need to see the field. They might be on their third regime change since he started his suspension.
Right, absolutely.
So like you said, dynasty league. If you got the space, I guess throw him on your bench. Even then, man, I would just wait and see a little longer. If someone else wants to pick him up, let them waste the spot.
Absolutely. I like to see if he comes back and he explodes for a big week. That's what everybody does, right? Fantasy is a what have you done for me lately, rather than what can you do for me. So dynasty league's a little bit different, but still a lot of young kids out there that I think you could pick up and get the same production out of at this point.
Absolutely. Some other news, I guess. Andrew Luck placed on the IR, won't play this season. Really doesn't say much, I guess. It's pretty much more of what we've seen this year from the Colts. Sucks for T.Y. Hilton. I think I'll talk about it a little later on the show, but if you're hurting for a roster spot on a bye week, I think you could probably drop T.Y. Hilton at this point. As much as his name carries, he hasn't done anything. And without Andrew Luck coming back, it's not going to get any better.
Certainly, and aside from that, the Andrew Luck, the recent news of him going on the IR, isn't going to affect too many people. Some people stashed him, hoping that he would come in and play, and when the bye week came, it might have been one of the guys that they targeted because you could pick him up 10th, 11th round in a lot of drafts with all the question marks surrounding him. A lot of those questions have been answered. What can they do without him? And it's not very much.
And actually, you mentioned that, it did hurt me in one of my dynasty leagues because I have Tom Brady, was on a bye week 9, and I actually traded Matt Stafford and some future picks and got Andrew Luck, thinking Luck would be ready by week 9. Boom, I can plug him in and play him. Come to find out I can't. I just had to pick up Drew Stanton off of waivers to play this week.
Yeah.
So not looking too good, but he's playing the Niners, so hopefully he can do something for
Absolutely.
me.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens.
That defense over there, I think you got a good shot for him to at least.
Let's give it 2 touchdowns. 200 yards, and even 200 yards and a touchdown, I'll take at this point. Just don't kill me.
Limit the turnovers.
Yeah.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, and new, before we start recording, huge news actually.
Absolutely huge.
Deshaun Watson, I don't know if it's confirmed, but it looks like it's torn ACL, going to miss the rest of the season, and it's just, man, that sucks to hear. His fantasy aside, man, this kid was putting up one hell of a rookie season.
It's terrible news to hear. It is confirmed here that he's gonna have surgery. I see that at ESPN. This kid was almost running away with Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for Nat having a great year, if it wasn't for him. To go down, and if you think about that, that's the second young quarterback that we've lost to an injury that's non-contact. Same thing to Teddy Bridgewater, non-contact drill. They're running, gets hurt. Now he's in jeopardy. ACLs, MCLs, things like that in this league.
Let alone, I mean, all the quarterbacks in general we lost this year. I mean, between Luck and Watson, Rodgers, Palmer, who else am I missing?
Even with just those, if you add in other big names, David Johnson,
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, injury bug this year has been plagued a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of you guys' fans out there that are following along. I bet a lot of them have had the same issues.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's why we continue to do these shows to help you find those guys you plug in your lineup and just try to keep it going, man. Because everyone's feeling the pain of injury, so you're not alone.
And Watson's one of those guys that nobody drafted almost at all. I know I got him in one league, but it's a keeper league, and I just took a shot on him, and it was looking like it was going to work out for me. A lot of people picked him off the waiver wire, and he was looking like he's that guy. Every year there's a guy or two that you can pick off the waivers. David Johnson a couple years ago. This year Deshaun Watson was that guy you pick up, and he's takes your team single-handedly into the playoffs and maybe even to a championship. And now for that to happen, sad news for fantasy players. Even more sad news for that kid being a young star, the face of a franchise that they weren't really sure what they were going to become. And I think he'll be back doing his thing, obviously, right? But for now, it's terrible news.
It does suck. I hope that he is well. What do you think that means for Will Fuller going forward? 'Cause I think he's probably the most affected by this injury.
Well,
considering his, just crazy numbers he's been putting up the past month.
Absolutely, and I know he was one of the guys I wanted to talk about a little bit later as well as Fuller. I think you're right, 100%. It's gonna affect him. It's gonna affect Hopkins. It's gonna affect Miller. The whole flow. The good news is Savage was supposed to be the starter at the beginning of the year. He kind of got tossed to the side in the first game because he wasn't playing very well, and it's really not that long of a leash before you get him, before you yank him out. I think he'll be okay. Honestly, I think he's not going to come in and put up Deshaun Watson numbers by any means, but I think he's serviceable, good enough to throw the ball down. He's going to have some bad games. There's going to be the learning curve and the pains that he's going to go through. But for Fuller, the bigger question for me is, was he going to be able to maintain the rate he was catching touchdowns? I mean, if he has 30 receptions, 20 of them are going for touchdowns, and that just seems to be the way that things were going for him. So, he would have been a guy that I'd like to say sell high. Yeah. Now, can you do that?
He was on my sell high list as we were getting ready for the show, and then to get this news come across, and it's like, wow, well, there goes, a whole segment.
Right.
But it's tough, man, like I said. So, trades. This is probably one of the biggest trade weeks in almost maybe ever.
That I can remember.
I mean, you just don't hear of trades going down the NFL like this. I guess one that is really, I don't think, going to have much of a fantasy impact this year is Jimmy Garoppolo to San Francisco for a second-round pick. They say Garoppolo might not even play this year, which I think would probably be a smart move by the Niners in a football sense. Get him in to learn the system. They don't have anything there around him yet. There's no reason to. But then again, maybe you want to throw him in and see what he's got. So with Garoppolo to San Fran, I don't know if you want to say anything or not. I don't.
Well, I certainly agree with you there. I think that's a trade for the future.
Yeah.
They didn't see the future in what they had there. They tried to put a Band-Aid on it by bringing in Hoyer, who has proven to be a serviceable quarterback. When he played for the Browns, he's able to see the field.
He's a solid backup.
Correct. And now he, consequently, coincidentally, moved over and is now Tom Brady's backup in New England. So I agree with you. Garoppolo is not the answer over there to change things. He probably won't even play much, if at all, this season. Again, if they do get to a point where they want to see, what could we be looking forward to next year, certainly you bring him in. But do you bring him in now and he doesn't know the book, he's not familiar with your plays? I don't think you throw him to the Wolves yet.
Yeah, he's not going to play this week, and he might not play next week, and then they have a bye, I think, after that. So, at the earliest, I think you might see him would be week 12. And that's, like I said, that's if they want to get him in, which, who knows, fantasy-wise, I wouldn't bother. Unless you're in a dynasty, pick him up, throw him on your bench. I think he's definitely worth a stash to see what he's got. if you got the space. But it's hard to carry a quarterback that you're not playing.
Certainly. And the only thing that scares me about Garoppolo, and this is no bash at him or his skill set, but a lot of the quarterbacks we've seen come out of New England have been more about that particular offense, right? So when
Belichick system.
right,
you
it's
know?
Belichick's system, it's Brady's offense, and I almost feel like they built that into a system that almost anybody can come in and play. And I don't mean that to be a dig at anybody, but if you look at past folks that have come out of there, out of that system, who went on to sign big contracts in the offseason, Matt Castle, he couldn't make it anywhere after that. He bounced around a lot. He did have a good season or two over in Kansas City, but he was never the quarterback he was there. No. So, do we see that same thing out of Garoppolo? Maybe.
Yeah, it definitely is worth paying attention to and something to think about.
Absolutely.
So I guess one of the bigger trades would be Jay to the Eagles. They got a 4th round pick, which I know probably to some fantasy fans doesn't seem like a lot, but these NFL teams, they do care about their 4th round picks. There's some big names that you can get in the 4th round that turn into big players. So it's not exactly peanuts, it's not a 1st or 2nd round pick.
Certainly.
But I think it's maybe a Super Bowl winning move for the Eagles. Potentially. I'm not calling the Eagles, I'm not an Eagles fan, so I am a Dolphins fan, which sucks for them, but
Absolutely.
It's...
As a Cowboys fan,
yeah,
I hate the move.
I bet you do.
As a football fan, the best team just got better.
Yeah.
You just added a different dynamic. It's not the downhill running style of LeGarrette Blount. He can be more of that bruiser that he was most of his career now.
Yeah.
3 yards in a cloud of dust. This guy, he can cut, he can move, he can accelerate, he can stop, he can go. He proved that he had some huge games last year. I want to say he went 3 times for 200 plus, which really made a name for him. So now on a team that has a great quarterback, a great young quarterback, on a team that I hate to say looks like the best team in the NFL right now, that is going to make them even harder to beat because you don't have to worry about just Carson Wentz anymore. Now play action becomes a lot more prevalent in that offense.
Yeah, and just to throw just a few things out there, some stats and stuff to see, I think how much better he can potentially be in Philadelphia, which I don't think it's going to be this week necessarily, or maybe even the week after that, because Blunt is still there, and it's going to be a bit of a timeshare, but Jay might just be the best back there, and they might just going to have to give him the ball for that simple reason. But he was on pace for a 1,000-yard season in Miami, which is ranked 31st in yards in the NFL. He comes to the Eagles, who ranked 4th in rushing yards in the NFL. So that's a huge jump. They're averaging 4.2 yards per carry as opposed to 3.2 in Miami. It's just the line's gonna be blocking better for him. There's gonna be holes for him to hit. He's gonna have the opportunity for touchdowns, whereas Miami was last in goal line rushing attempts. And then we go to the Eagles, who are in the top 4 for rushing attempts in the goal line. So, just his whole outlook is that much better because he's yet to score a touchdown this season.
Right.
If you got a guy on pace for 1,000 yards, that's a solid running back. Because he hasn't had the touchdowns, it kind of makes him not that appealing. Throw a few touchdowns in there, a touchdown every couple games or a two touchdown game here and there. I think he's easily, ranked. I think he should be a top 15 back going forward. And if you're able to give him, I don't think he's going to get 20 touches a game. I think he's going to be closer to 15. But if they buy in and they go with run back and they're going to give him 20 touches, man, I think he can be top 10 player.
I agree. I think what this does for him is puts him back to where everybody was drafting him.
Yeah.
When he was being drafted in the beginning of the season, Tannehill was still not a question mark. He wasn't hurt. And that was another one that we lost that we didn't, I don't know if we touched on, was Tannehill. But he goes from being that late 1st round, early 2nd round running back that now you're kind of like, man, I kind of wish I didn't spend that pick on him, to he's that guy again. He at least has that potential. The quarterback play, you can't sell that short because now you can't stack the box. And in Miami, defenses are stacking the box. They're saying, you have to beat him with your arm. And until you prove that, we're going to stuff him.
Miami was one of the, if not the worst, the bottom 3 offense in the league, and they couldn't do anything. And you're right, they can't stack the box against Wentz in that passing attack. And just one more, they do play Denver this week, which is the #1 rush defense in the NFL. given, he's going to be there all week, but given they are playing Denver, he is switching teams. Maybe you bench Ajayi this week. They're going to probably work him in slowly. He might see 10 touches. I mean, unless you absolutely have to, if you don't have another choice, I would bench him and just see what happens. And if he blows up, then, I guess you missed a blow-up game, but I think it's a smarter play to sit him this week.
Hey, we've all missed that blow-up game before. Thanks, Amari Cooper.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. So the next one would be Kelvin Benjamin to the Bills, which came pretty much right at the deadline. I think it was pretty close to 4 o'clock. And I guess it makes sense considering McDermott came from Carolina. He's their old defensive coordinator.
Correct.
So I don't think it's much of an upgrade for Benjamin himself. I think it's a huge upgrade for the Bills as an offense. I mean the Bills aren't that good of a passing attack, whereas Carolina was a top 15 passing attack, even though their offense has struggled a little bit this year. It's if Tyrod does one thing good though, it's throw the ball up to the big receivers. A la Sammy Watkins. So I don't know. What do you think about Benjamin going on the Buffalo Bills?
So Benjamin to the Bills, I think, has an effect on two things. If Tyrod can learn quickly to trust him in the red zone, let him throw the ball up and let Benjamin go get the ball, then you're going to see some things really happen down there. I can see him being used more like Plexico Burress was back in the day with the Giants or the Jets, where he wasn't necessarily that speedster that stretched the field, but when you got inside those 20s, he was your guy. Big guy, strong. He doesn't get separation, but he's bigger and stronger than you, and he's going to prove that if you throw the ball up. He's that guy. The other thing that I think it does is it's going to help LaShawn McCoy out. Shady was kind of bottled up. I mean, he's shady, right? He's fantastic, but he was struggling to find the end zone.
He was getting his yards. He's getting the carries, he's getting the yards. Up until, was it last week he got his first touchdown?
2 weeks ago, right. 2 weeks ago, his first touchdown. I think he went for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then again last week, in another impressive win by the Bills, he did the same thing. Definitely. Always gets his yards, catches the ball out of the backfield, but when you're inside those 20s, if you don't have a guy that you can go to, you start to tighten up. The defense is always tightening up. Right now, when you're, from 20 to 20, you've got all kinds of space, you can open up, but once you get inside the 20s, the defense comes in, you're working with a lot less field.
Yep.
Benjamin being there can spread the field a little bit, get that safety out of the middle. He's got to help out. I think that LaShawn McCoy is really going to be the one who prospers from this. Benjamin could be good. It's tough for me to say. Obviously, we're guessing here, but
Yeah.
I think if they use him properly, as the big target he is, he can be just as dangerous as McCoy, but I think it helps McCoy too.
I agree. I think that's spot on. I mean, I think Benjamin. I think he's going to be the same as Carolina, maybe a little better. I think you're right. I think he might have a better chance for some touchdowns, which is going to open it up also for the running game, especially in the red zone. You got to worry about a 6'5" guy when you're in the red zone. You can't leave him running free like the rest of whoever's on the Bills receiving core. I mean, I probably couldn't name but 2.
Right.
So.
Well, and that's the thing.
And
It gives
Andre
him,
Holmes, he's been like the red zone guy this year. I feel like he's had a few touchdowns.
he had that same role pretty much over there in Oakland as well, right? He was kind of that red zone guy, but I think he's better here. Kelvin Benjamin's the better guy. It's just all about Tyrod learning to trust him and throw the ball up to him.
Yes. I mean, so this week, I guess, playing against the Jets. The Jets are tied with Buffalo as the 24th worst. Is that right? The 24th in the league for passing yards allowed. So, I mean, the opportunity's there. I think you're really hoping on a short week for Benjamin coming in, which I believe he is starting this week, or tonight it would be. And, I mean, you're hoping for a touchdown, I think, which he definitely has the opportunity to get. You're hoping for the big play. So, I mean, again, these bye weeks, man, you probably don't have a choice but to play him. There's one more small trade. This one happened, I believe, last week, actually. Or no, I believe it was Sunday night or early Monday morning, right after the big Seattle Houston game. They actually decided to make a trade. It's like, hey, good game, let me get your left tackle. So Seattle got Dwayne Brown from Houston, and I know a lot of people, what does the line do for fantasy? And really, I think it's going to open up the running game a little bit more. And I think really the beneficiary is going to be Thomas Rawls, who has just been dominating the plays against for Seattle. I mean, he hasn't been doing much with them, but he has been the guy that's on the field. I think they trust him more in pass blocking, which is why he's in there more. I mean, CJ Prosise just can't stay on the field. I think he's the other most reliable guy. He's always injured. So I think it's going to be Thomas Rawls. And, maybe he's able to break one or two now when you got a good back or a good blocker in there.
Yeah. The value of offensive linemen in any consequence, so it wins games. People don't understand that the running back is flashy, the quarterback is flashy. All the position players that you want to have on your fantasy team, you got to have this offensive line. And the better your offensive line is, the better they block, the more upright your quarterback stays, the more chances and opportunities he has to get the ball downfield. Holes open up for your running game, and run feeds the pass, pass feeds the run. A great lineman being added to any line changes the entire dynamic of that team. I think you're right. I think Rawls is the trustable guy. He does definitely out-touch everyone else on their team. There was a little bit of talk about Eddie Lacy maybe being cut, and then the next thing I see, he was actually told he's going to get more looks in the offense. But we'll see what happens here. So, bottom line, I don't know if you want to go get Rawls or Lacy at this point, but take a look, watch what happens here. Let's see if that passing game doesn't have to be as prolific now that you can run the ball and have a little bit more protection.
Which would actually help the passing game even more.
Absolutely.
A good running game makes a better passing game. And actually, I want to go back real quick because we forgot to talk about the guys that will benefit on the teams where the guys left on the trade. So, we're talking about the Miami guys, that J.J. left behind, and, who's the guy to own there? I know me personally, I got Kenyon Drake. I think he's going to get, the Ajayi role where Damian Williams was the third down back already. I think he's going to keep that third down role, maybe even lose some. I don't know if Kenyon Drake's going to steal some of that. And at the same time, I don't really know if it even matters. Because Ajayi, is talented as he is, they were not doing anything with the ball on the ground. I don't know, that offensive line was supposed to be one of the top coming into this year, with Pouncey being healthy, and they have not been opening up holes. I think the Dolphins are last for yards before contact, and like I said, I don't know if it matters, but you want to get someone in volume. Kenyon Drake's your guy, I think, to own there.
I think Drake is definitely the beneficiary here. Do you want him on your team? I agree. No, you do not. Pick him up if you have to have him. If you can't find somebody on the waivers, make a trade, then yeah, he's the guy you want to have in Miami. Damian does still stay there at third. He's third down back. That's what he was. They're going to replace those. Drake is going to get those carries that Ajayi has left. So he'll get the opportunities. I don't see more opportunities for Damian. He's going to be that guy, right? He stays the third down back, maybe a couple of extra touches, but for the most part it's Drake. Almost like a timeshare, and maybe they even go with a hot hand. And I know a lot of people have been doing that lately.
Yeah.
The league got away from the one back where he was your workhorse, and they started to separate things. It's starting to come back the other way now, but I still think that they deploy that going forward, unless somebody gets hot. Now, don't forget, Jay Ajayi was a healthy scratch for the first couple of weeks last season before he exploded onto the scene. So anything's possible.
It is. It happens every year. Someone comes out of nowhere and just like, well, what happened here? And then the other one would be the Carolina Panthers offense. Really, there's Funchess, who now I think becomes the number one wide receiver there without question. Him and Kelvin Benjamin are really the same player. I know a lot of people were almost dumbfounded when they drafted Funchess the year after Benjamin because they didn't see, the skill set was basically the same thing. Big, tall bodies, not the fastest, not going to cause separation, but they're going to go up and catch the, high point the ball. Red zone threats. I think McCaffrey might benefit from this And honestly, I think maybe even the run game might get hurt a little bit because they don't have to worry about these two big receivers anymore. So I think maybe Crafton might get some more drop or some quick passes. And I mean, but he's been horrible as a actual running back.
Right.
So
to hurt that running game is going to be not that big of a deal because that running game is not that impressive to me. You're right. Your premium play was Funchess,
yes,
and he's gonna be the beneficiary of all of Benjamin's targets. So 8 to 10 targets out of Benjamin. Those got to be split up somewhere. A lot of them are going to go to Funchess. Certainly, you can take McCaffrey. You can split him out. Maybe do a few of the other things that you do because he is a very gifted receiver as well as running back. I'd like to see them employ a more, I guess for lack of better terms, I would like to see more traditional offense. Where they don't do so much trickery because then when they do put him in the backfield, they almost know what's coming. I think that Funchess is definitely the guy that you want to own there now, and he's going to see the targets. Can he get the separation? But the only problem is, will he now get all the double coverage?
that's the thing. Can he be the number one guy? You know, can he fight through the double coverage, safety over the top? You know, can he do all those things? And just real quick, is Curtis Samuel is a guy they drafted in the second round. I think maybe this is an opportunity for him to step up. He's a smaller Wes Welker, Julie Enderman type guy. You know, this might be a chance for him. You know, maybe he can start seeing some targets and making some plays. So
I know that he was on a lot of people's radar as a sleeper this year, and I agree. This is his chance to step up. You know, it's really hurting that they let Ted Ginn go. That was their guy that could have stepped in last year. He had a lot of big plays, a lot of big numbers, especially down the stretch. So now this year he has to step up and be their Ted Ginn.
yes, sir. All right. So that was all the big trades we covered. So what we're gonna do now, where we normally go into our rankings, which we're not gonna do. If you guys want to see our rankings, if you want to know who to start, just go to our website, jnjfantasyflyers.com. We'll have everything listed on there, sleepers. So I mean, we pretty much covered everybody as far as our rankings. I don't think there's really too many big questions. We're gonna cover some guys still here today. If you do have questions about them, hopefully they're here. Or you can always hit us up on Facebook, J&J Fantasy Flyers, or on Twitter @Fantasy Flyers. Or, you know, we have a section on our website where you can write a comment to us and we'll get it right in our email. And we're always good about getting back to people as quick as we can. So what we're going to do now is, what the NFL trade deadline up means the fantasy football trade deadlines are right around the corner. I think our league is week 9 when I'm in. I'm sure a lot of other leagues are right around week 9, week 10. So we're going to talk about some guys you want to target for trades, maybe some guys you want to try to sell high on your own team and get rid of. And then we're going to get into maybe some tips and tricks for trading, some techniques you like to deploy when you try to get trades or make trades. Stuff like that. You know, a lot of people ready for making that playoff push. You know, you want to bolster your team to go into the playoffs with the best roster available. And I guess one of the things while I'm talking about it, one of the things I like to do as I'm getting ready to go to the playoff is, it might not sound very smart, but sometimes I like to get rid of some of my depth and trade my depth and try to get that, you know, that one extra piece that can start on my lineup and help give me that edge in my flex spot for the playoffs. And when someone gets hurt, you might be screwed, you might not be, but that's my one tip, not my one tip, but you know, right now, I think that's one thing that I've been trying to do, and see what happens. You know, who knows? Maybe it doesn't come to bite you in the butt, but.
Well, and sometimes you have to take that chance. A lot of that has to do. You have to take a look at where you at in the standings.
Yeah.
What kind of schedule do you have in front of you? Where are your bye weeks? Who are you missing? What injuries have plagued you? Mm-hmm. So, you know, for me, I would normally sit here and tell you, listen, if you want one of my studs off of my team, I don't want 2 of your players. I don't want 2 guys to make up what one guy can do for me. With that said, when you get to this part and now you're ravaged by trades or injuries or bye weeks, well, now you got to relook at things, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe a couple of mid-tier players for one of your upper-tier guys makes a little more sense. I know it's never good to give up 20 points out of one guy that are going to take you 2 guys to get to that, But just remember, a lot of those guys have the potential to score that 20 for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think. That's actually feeding off of that is you probably got some guys. Got Le'Veon Bell, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, all on buys this week, as well as maybe some other Brandon Cooks. So you got Gronk, and if they're on the border of making the playoffs, they need to win this week. They might take two decent depth pieces for one of their guys that's on a bye because they don't have a roster that's going to get them a win, and they need that win. I've done it. I traded Julio Jones a few weeks ago for like a Doug Martin and Brandon Cooks because Julio Jones was on a bye and I needed a win. I didn't have someone to plug in there and play that for me, and I needed a win, and it worked out for me so far. That's something I like to try to target is guys on buys, especially now if you're definitely we're going to week 9, so if you're 6-2, 7-1, if you're sitting up there, you're pretty good chance of making the playoffs. Even target another guy on a buy, give a 1-for-1 trade even, but it might be a slight upgrade for you, or maybe someone you like a little more, but it gives that guy that's looking for that win. That way you're not doing a 2-for-1. If you're dealing with smart fantasy owners, it's hard to do a 2-for-1. I like to do 2-for-1s because they're the best type of trades. You get the better player of the deal, you get 2 spots open, and it's a good trade. But do you have anything else? Or
Well, I was just going to add to that here you are, week 9, the waiver wire's been gone through. So now to find that gem, you're looking for a guy that's serviceable.
mm-hmm.
You're not getting in there and finding a guy who's going to give you 15, 20 points unless it's a kicker who has a great day. Most of the guys you're getting, you want to see targets. When I go there, I'm looking for targets. I'm looking for opportunities. So when I want to trade, what I'm giving away or what I'm getting in return, I want to make sure that it's not a guy that was a flash in the pan. He had a couple of good weeks. I want to try to avoid the guys to trade for that I'm willing to trade. Buy low, sell high guys. I want to sell high. I want to buy low. Mm-hmm. And everybody should probably want to do that. But it also comes down to each fantasy player, right? That's why every league that you're in is different because we all value people differently. My projections for this player are different than your projections for that player because you think A or B, right? So the defense is going to be better, the offense is going to be worse, or whatever it happens to be, and that's why you move guys up and down in every league that you're in, drafts differently. Otherwise, the draft, it would just matter where you got in the draft, you'll end up with the same team you had in another draft. So it's all about the people that you play with, feeling them out, and trying to find the right trade partner. For me, I guess I tend to do less trading than a lot of folks, but going back to what you also said about, if you're sitting 7-1, 6-2, you're in really good shape to make the playoffs. At that point, I hold on to what I have and I hold out for you to make a better offer to me. If you're at the bottom and you're looking to move up, I'm going to try to get what I can out of you. Absolutely. Vice versa, if I'm at the bottom and I'm desperate to move up, I might give up a lot more than I'm getting in return, but it's going to fill holes for me. Because obviously, if you're at the bottom, you're looking to fill holes. Yep. The only other thing that I can say about that is matchups could have been your nemesis. I know in the league that you and I play in together, we are 2 of the highest scoring teams in the league, yet we don't necessarily win all the time. I won it last year. This year, I think you're the top scoring team or top 3 anyway. Yeah. And that was actually the way it was projected to be in the beginning of the season.
And I've only won three games so far.
So
and tied 1. It's turning around finally, but I'm still pushing to make the playoffs at this point.
Absolutely. So again, find the right trade partner, and it's about value to that person and value to where you are to try to make the playoffs. If you already have a tight hold on it, then you can hold on to who you have. Yep. If you don't have a tight hold, you might have to give up more than you're willing to.
Yeah, and not all trades have to be for top 10, top 20 players. Sometimes getting those little trades, especially if you're a top contending team, just making a couple small trades to upgrade your flex position or even your tight end position a little bit can just better your team that much more. Just 5 points more a week out of your flex could mean a win. Especially in the playoffs when it's usually tough matchups and it really, sometimes it really comes down to who got what guy on whose team blows up that week. It sucks, but it's fantasy football. That's what we play.
And on draft day, we all have that position that we're willing to keep pushing back and pushing back
yeah.
and pushing back because we value some guys higher. Now, at this point in the season, you got to fill those spots that you push back, and maybe you found somebody that you can trade with to fill that tight end spot.
Yep.
Some people go after Gronk. I'm a firm believer, unless I can get him later, I'm staying away from tight ends because at this point with the game the way it is, it's such a passing game now compared to the way it used to be that you can find a tight end, Kittles from San Francisco. I needed him for a bye week, had a great week, ended up with 20-some points one week. So you can find those guys. It's just all about what your need is.
Really is, yeah, and that's why I hope you watch the shows that help you find those. Maybe you could have filled your spots right off of waivers. Now you don't have to trade for them now. But now we're going to talk about some guys that we are targeting for trades. And one of my main guys, who I talked about I think 3 or 4 weeks ago as a trade target, and is Doug Martin. And he hasn't really done a whole lot yet this year, which I understand. But, I mean, he's getting the volume. I think he's getting 18, 22 carries a game. He's still giving you a solid baseline, 50 to 80 yards rushing, a touchdown mixed in here and there. But he's had a tough schedule, and his schedule eases up going forward and into the playoffs. It's kind of middle of the pack. It's not easy. It's not hard, though. I know he faces a couple teams that are like in the 20s, but he's got a couple more that are in the 15 to 13 range as far as team defense for fantasy. So he's definitely someone I'm looking to trade. Plus, he doesn't have any more. He doesn't have a bye, given they had their bye week 1.
Yep.
Whereas I guess what just thought of it as I thought about that, but Jay Ajayi will now have another bye week, so he'll play one less game than everybody else. So take that for what it is, I guess. But so he's someone I am definitely trying to target for a trade. Just to pull up our rankings here, just to give an idea of maybe some guys I'd be willing to move for him. I mean, I don't even know if you could probably do some of this or not, but I mean, like a DeMarco Murray, maybe even, I guess this is a sell high guy. I think I would like to sell high on is a Chris Thompson. I mean, Jesus, it's kind of a hodgepodge of running backs this week, man. It's
Certainly. And all this is contingent on what kind of league you're in. A PPR league, the guy that you're willing to give up might not be Chris Thompson, might turn into to be more your first offering there. So DeMarco Murray, I do agree with you that Doug Martin is a guy you want to, if you can for the right price get him.
Yes.
I like him. I liked him in the beginning of the year in preseason. He was running the ball hard. He was definitely the guy. There was no question after watching him in preseason that when his suspension was up, he was going to be the guy. No one else took over. He's still that guy. He's running hard between the tackles. They gotta make space for him. I know that Jameis Winston is in the top, I want to say 10 or 15 in yards, but with him being hurt, he can't stretch the field as much, and the healthier he gets, the more Doug Martin can start to run the ball in between the tackles a little bit better, get into the second level, get into that secondary, and maybe even break a couple here and there. He's not a huge speed guy, but for as little as he is, he runs hard and can get you some touchdowns.
Absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and shoot someone out there?
So I'm going to throw a guy out that I think you can buy low on, and I like Alex Collins. Okay. I'm a fan of Collins. He's starting to see more touches over there. The offense is sputtering. You have a Super Bowl winning quarterback who knows what it takes to get that team going, and something's just not hitting. And he might be the spark. He's touching the ball. He's at one point he was averaging almost 8 yards a carry, and I understand that he didn't have very many opportunities. And as he gets more opportunities, that's going to go down. But as his numbers go up, his average per carry is not going down as drastically as you would expect. I know Buck Allen was a big waiver wire pickup, But the entire time that was going on, Collins was still my guy. Now he's starting to get a little bit more involved in the passing game, and as soon as his quarterback can trust him, he's going to see more touches on the screens. He's going to see more checkdowns. He's got to be able to block in the passing scheme, and he'll see more downs. So once that happens, I like Collins. I like him from here to the finish. I think he's going to be the guy over there.
Now, are you worried about Danny Woodhead's return, which I think they're looking at week 11?
Danny Woodhead's return doesn't bother me for this reason. He's another one of those guys like Procise. He just can't stay on the field. Tons of talent. He definitely is a great guy in a PPR, which is odd because in a lot of drafts, he sat there for a long time. But he's coming off of a major injury from last year, gets injured again. How much can he stay on the field? And if he does stay on the field, how much do they want to use him?
Yeah.
So I think Collins going forward is my guy if I can buy somebody low.
To your point, I think Woody, Danny Woodhead, he's gonna take work away from Javoris Allen. I think Collins is gonna be the runner, and either Woodhead or Allen is gonna be the pass catcher who might see a carry here and there. So I think that's a good point. I actually just traded Collins in another league. It was my dynasty league, so I got a good depth. But anyways, I like him going forward this year. It's tough to say, man. That Baltimore offense is just horrible. But,
It is, and again, I make that as a buy low. This is obviously it's easy to sit here and say you should try to get Le'Veon Bell. You should try to buy. We can always do that, but
if
you're looking for a guy that you can maybe even get on the waivers at this point, that could possibly help your team, that we were talking about that, filling those gaps, having that flex guy. I think he could turn into that guy that gets you a solid 8 to 12 points every week, depending on the league that you're in. If he can get a touchdown, few catches if you're in a PPR. Last week he was targeted 5 times in a passing game, caught 3 of those for 36 yards. He was able to touch the ball 11 times for 11 carries. I want to say he averaged around 4.1 yards a carry, somewhere in there. So he's starting to see more touches. He's starting to see some things go on, and I think that he's going to be a guy to watch.
Nice. Now, speaking of Le'Veon Bell here, I'm actually going to throw out a big name that I think you can buy low on, and you will wind up being fairly happy with, and that's AJ Green. And the reason why I think you can buy low is, although he's personally having a pretty good season, I think he's a top 10 wide receiver so far this year. But I think just the overall view of the way the Bengals have been this year kind of takes them down. Because you think of AJ Green, you don't think he's having a top 10 season this year. I know I don't, and I have him in a couple teams, and I mean he's been solid. He's been giving you 6 for 80 touchdown throwing. He had the one big game where he put up 136 yards or something. I mean the whole team stunk last week against what was a beautiful matchup against the Colts, and they weren't able to do anything. Now, that said, they do play the Jacksonville this week. I think if you can wait it out 1 week against Jacksonville and they put up another stinker, I think the owner will be willing to part with them. And if you throw maybe like a Michael Crabtree or a Jarvis Landry with another piece, like a filler piece, a running back or some piece like that, I think you can upgrade AJ Green, and he's going to help you going forward into the playoffs and championship.
Certainly, I think the reason that you're not hearing about him is because the team looks so bad.
Yeah, Andy Dalton. I mean, he's just, and not to beat up on Andy Dalton, but that offensive line is not giving him any time, and you can see it in the way he's just acting. I mean, he's got no time. He's getting hammered, and he's not himself because he doesn't have the time. Maybe it's part of the running game too. They haven't been able to get the running game going. So
well, and that goes back to what we talked about earlier, that big trade in Houston and Seattle, and you add that offensive line piece, and it maybe opens up what you're able to do in the passing game and the running game. If you can keep the quarterback upright and you can create holes for the running back, you're going to get passing yards and you're going to get rushing yards. So if they're faltering, over there in Cincinnati, another big piece that they added that everyone was high on, well, a lot of people were high on early, was Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
And I don't think he doesn't not run hard. He's a good ball player. I just don't think the holes are there for him to run through. Mm-hmm. And, when there's 350-pound men in front of you, it's kind of hard to make your own holes.
Yeah.
So I would agree. I mean, they do get behind a lot, so you got to do a lot of throwing. And who are you going to throw to? AJ Green. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bad week for me. You usually give it a solid baseline just because he's AJ. I think if you're able to, go get him now and expect a bad week from him against that tough, very tough Jacksonville defense. And I don't even think it's going to be so much their secondary. It's going to be that pass rush, man. It's just Andy Dalton's not going to have any time to throw the ball. And, it's going to look like A.J. Green is bad again, but it's not him. It's the rest of it's the quarterback, it's the line. Do you have another person you want to throw out there?
While we're on wide receivers, I'd like to throw a name out there that this is not going to be a sleeper. This is the pick is sexy right now. Everyone's talking about him. Smith-Schuster. So everybody's talking about him. Martavius Bryant, he made the comments on Twitter. He got rid of him. I thought that was a terrible move. Seems how your past has not been the best pass. You've already been suspended on multiple occasions. You're not getting the playing time. This young kid, who is the youngest kid in the league at 20 years old, he has a lot to prove, and he plays that way. He seems to keep his mouth shut and just do what he's asked. I think, although the hype is all around him, I think the hype is real. And I think this kid has the possibility to be a really good football player. Is he a buy high, sell low, sell high, buy low? I don't know.
I think you're buying the hype pre-production because he had the one big game, but it's still
Certainly.
hype. So I think you're buying in before he's a week-to-week starter.
And that's why he's still available in about 25% of leagues in Yahoo. And I am going to buy in. And I think a lot of what fantasy is we got to buy in ahead of time. You beat somebody to the punch, you're going to win, right? So you go pick up a guy like this, you buy into the hype beforehand. Now he had that huge game. He's not going to replicate that. Maybe in his career he will, but he's had some games where he gets targets. My favorite thing about him is that he plays opposite of AB.
Oh, yeah.
So who gets the attention? AB. And who's going to get the targets? Smith-Schuster. And that's what I like about him. He's sure-handed. I think he's got one drop this year. He does his job. He's quick enough. He showed that on the 97-yarder. If he gets into space, he can run away from people. He's still a big kid. He's got good hands. And again, being opposite of AB is what made Martavius Bryant look as good as he was. And it's what makes this kid look as good as he is. And for me, I like that. Go ahead and double my big guy. Give me all the... A lot of people have made a living off of playing out of the slot. All the way back to, your Hushmanzadas and people like that had a big name because the people that were opposite of them were doing a thing. At the time, it was Chad Johnson. The same thing with all these slot guys. So I like him for that.
That's a good point. I like him too. Definitely, like you said, you can buy him still fairly cheap with a one big blow up. But yeah, it's a good depth piece, like you said, to add on there, especially in the flex position.
If you have a chance to get him, put him on your bench, and see if the hype is real. Give him another game and look for the targets. Don't look for the production right away. Look for the targets. If Ben Roethlisberger is looking his way 8 to 10 times, that's what you need, because it's not like it's a running back where you get 15 handoffs every single time or every single game, 15 to 20. If you're getting targeted in the passing game 8 to 10 times, you might catch one, but you might catch 10.
Yeah.
And it's the targets for me.
It's the targets, yeah. Just, as a running back, you look for the volume.
Exactly.
It's the targets turn to catches. You can't get catches if you're not getting the targets. Oh, all right. Now, I think I got a note here, just, I guess, really 3 guys that are from the same team is maybe some targets I'm going to look for this week specifically because they're on a bye, is McKinnon, Diggs, and possibly Thielen. It would be hard to get Thielen with the week he just had. I mean, I've been big on Thielen all year. I've been saying since before the NFL season started that Thielen is going to outperform Diggs this year. Obviously, with Diggs being out for 3 weeks, it kind of helps my case a little bit.
Right.
But he's been solid still, and he's giving you a baseline of 6-7 catches and 50-60 yards, a couple touchdowns mixed in there. Diggs, I think you can buy low off of the not so great week. He was solid. He had a touchdown, I think, that might have saved him.
Yeah.
And just coming off the injury, excuse me, I think you can still buy low on him. I would definitely try to do that. And McKinnon, I mean, maybe you can get him still at a decent price. Like I said, target somebody that needs a player this week. Those guys are on buys. Offer them. I'd offer him a Jordy Nelson, or for a Diggs. I mean, maybe you can still sell high. And speaking off of selling low, buying low, selling high. Jordy Nelson, he still carries around some name value. T.Y. Hilton still has some name value. You can probably sell. Try to get the Larry Fitzgerald. Get those guys that got that name cachet that people might not always look too deeply into. Like, oh yeah, Jordy Nelson, sure, duh. But
big names with big quarterback injuries.
Yeah.
And that's where you have it. You sell the name and hope that you can get something in return. You're looking. You mentioned Larry Fitzgerald. He's playing with Drew Stanton. You mentioned Jordy Nelson. He's playing without Aaron Rodgers. So you're naming some guys that have the name to carry some weight, and those always make them, even when they're a low play, a possible high sell. So let's play a game real quick. I wanted to throw some names at you, and you tell me what you like. Going forward, Roethlisberger or Rivers?
I'm gonna say Roethlisberger. I think that offense is starting to turn around a little bit better for him. Finally.
Rivers is always a 3,800 to 4,000 yard guy.
He's been solid.
He's solid, but
it's not that I don't like him.
I agree with you on Roethlisberger. All the talk in the beginning of the year and before the season about retiring, and then he wasn't playing so good. He has some stuff going on. I think he's revitalized. I think going forward, he will be a second half MVP, especially for his team. Maybe not fantasy wise, but I think he'll be able to carry some guys. He's probably available in some leagues because his play hasn't been that good, and he's another guy you might be able to buy low on, and I think is going to finish high. Next one, running back. You like McKinnon or Murray? Now, I know you just talked about McKinnon, but so last week, Murray was the guy for 100 and change. The week before that was McKinnon. If you have a chance, if they're both sitting there on waivers in a non-PPR league, McKinnon or Murray?
You're talking Latavius Murray?
Latavius, yes.
Yeah, I think I got to roll up McKinnon. I've always never really been huge on McKinnon, especially after he flashed, because he flashed a few years ago when AP went down, and I think he played 2 games, he was solid, and then he just did nothing the rest of the year. And I thought that was going to happen again. It doesn't look like he's pretty solid, so I think I like McKinnon more than Murray. He's going to get the passes too, that helps give him a solid baseline. Murray, he's worth owning, I think, but not that good.
So another guy you mentioned, AP, I think he's a sell high candidate. AP or DeMarco Murray?
Ooh, that is tough. I'm going to have to go with DeMarco based on AP's, remaining schedule. I think, they play in a tough division as it is. Their quarterback situation. I think Murray, they're on the bye this week. I think he comes back healthy off the bye with Mariota. Or not on the bye this week. They're on the bye last week. They come off this week, I think, healthy. The offense is going to start picking it up, I think.
Certainly. And I think AP is a high sell. You give him one more week because he plays San Francisco and that defense over there.
Yeah.
If he could have another big game, you can sell him really high and maybe get some good pieces that are a little bit more solid. Last one I'll give you, Smith-Schuster or Jordy Nelson?
I'm going to go with Jordy, and it's not actually a dumb question either. But,
quarterback play.
Yeah, Jordy, I don't think is going to be as bad as he was 2 weeks ago. 2 points, it's Hundley. They're not going to be that bad. Yeah, I think he's going to be solid. He's going to have a touchdown regression, but I think his yardage will still be okay. I just can't see them being that bad. I really can't.
And I wasn't going to throw that one at you, but you picked Roethlisberger earlier. I like the pick. I really like the pick, so I wanted to see where you go because
I wouldn't get mad. I tell you what, man. If you could trade Jordy for Schuster, and maybe even like Alex Collins or something like that.
Or Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack, someone else is who's seeing that's actually a good trade target. Should have brought him up. We're talking about trades. Who's seeing more and more action. He's getting carried up and up, and that's definitely it's a good play. So I'm actually going to give you some of the same thing here, play another little game, but I'm going to do mine a little different. I'm going to give you running back, and then I'm gonna give you other guys. I'm gonna give you multiple guys to compare to that one running back, and who would you rather have going forward? So I'm gonna start with Aaron Jones. So you got Aaron Jones, and we're gonna go PPR or Alvin Kamara.
Ooh. All right, that's a good one. So I wasn't sold on Jones because their run offense was terrible too. But the couple times he's been able to be featured there, he has looked really good. Now with that said, Kamara is getting all kinds of touches. If we're in a PPR league, flip a coin. I like Kamara because he's a little quicker. If you're looking at touchdowns from the goal line standpoint,
And a better offense.
but Hundley scares me because the best running back on that team is definitely Aaron going forward, Aaron Jones, but Hundley's probably the second best, and he doesn't throw very well. He's got to get a grasp of that system, so I would go with Kamara.
All right, so Aaron Jones or Doug Martin.
Doug Martin, we talked about him earlier. I still like the way he runs. Now, unfortunately, it's gonna play out probably differently. Jones has been getting 100 yards, a touchdown here and there. That's a tough one because I'm afraid of volume over there as well. He could lose as soon as Ty Montgomery's feeling better. He's semi-healthy, but the ribs are still an issue. You don't want to be a running back getting blasted in the ribs and have broken ribs. So I think that he could lose some touches going forward compared to Martin's not going to lose touches. Volume again.
I agree. So we'll go Aaron Jones or Carlos Hyde.
Well, they're calling for Carlos Hyde's head every once in a while over there in San Francisco, and they play on a pretty bad team. He does run the ball hard. He was one of my quote-unquote sleepers a few years ago, and for a couple of years. He did have a really good year last year, but in this case, I'd probably go with Aaron Jones. He does play on a better team. Even with Hundley at the helm, the team is a better team. It's a better run offense.
Well,
no matter who it is.
He's a running back, and just real Aaron Jones. He's a running back. He's a better running back. Ty Montgomery is not a running back.
Right.
I think with Aaron Rodgers there, I think Ty Montgomery might be the better fit at the position. But Aaron Jones is a running back. He's a running back. I do worry too, though, like you said, that maybe if he's not being very productive, they put Ty Montgomery in and he busts off a couple big runs. That game flow goes to Ty Montgomery, so he does have that the worry that he might not see the carries every single week. But at the same time, if he keeps doing what he did, 2 weeks ago when they only threw for 124 yards or something like that, and he ran for more yards than they passed for. That's pretty good.
So,
you'd like to see that. So.
Saying that says a lot because if you can't pass the ball, the defense stacks against the run.
Exactly.
He still got his.
Exactly my point.
Yes. I think regardless of what happens the rest of this year, next year when Aaron Rodgers gets under center, Aaron Jones is the running back. He's the workhorse. Ty Montgomery can go back to being a slot receiver. We'll see what happens in the offseason with their wide receiver core.
Ty Montgomery would be a perfect, like a Tyreek Hill type of player. He's the same type of athlete, body build. It's very comparable, and they're not going to be able to keep, Cobb, Adams, and Jordy. I don't think very much longer. I think Adams might be due for a contract either at the end of this year or next year.
Yeah, and Montgomery's a little bit bigger than some of these kids. You're not as big as Aaron Jones, but he's big enough that he can play that position.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's not a running back,
yeah.
right? He's a receiver, which helps you if you're going to check down.
Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't progress through football with the vision of a running back because he didn't play that position. There's just things that Aaron Jones is naturally better than because that's the position he's played. And, it's no knock against Ty Montgomery because he's filled in
admirably.
Yes, very well. He's been a serviceable running back for them when they needed one.
They felt enough of him not to go draft anybody real high.
Exactly. It was said the only reason why they drafted Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones is because they had nobody else behind Ty Montgomery.
Right.
They needed somebody to put there.
You hope somebody steps up and in this in the NFL, that's how it goes. One injury,
Yeah.
and you're the next man up.
A couple broken ribs and you lose your job.
That's right. Ask Romo.
Yeah. But and we can do one more, I guess, real quick before we wrap the show up. I think I'll touch on receiver real quick, and I'm gonna go with a nice juicy one here. This is really gonna get some people. Amari Cooper, Mr. Up and Down, mainly down. So I'm gonna go Amari Cooper or now Will Fuller with the injury.
So I like this one is a good one. I like Cooper. He scares me, his drops. I mean, he leads the league in drops, I believe, at this point.
He has since week 1, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean,
But he's still playing with a really good quarterback. He's still the guy that they drafted out of Alabama. He's still the guy that had the big season as a rookie. He still has a great quarterback that is growing with him. So as they learn some subtle nuances, it's been a while since you remember back in the day the Montana to Rice or the Young to Rice. When I would say a quarterback's name, you could pop off the wide receiver. That doesn't happen so much in this day and age because so many people are pass happy. You could say Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, but he also has games where he doesn't throw to Jordy and he's throwing right.
It's the West Coast out, they're spreading the ball around.
I think that Carr to Cooper is going to be something we're going to be talking about for a long time. I think he fixes the drops. He goes back to being the guy that we thought he was last year when we drafted him, and that we thought he would be this year when we drafted him. Fuller, I don't think that he can maintain that level of scoring when he's like the new Chris Carter. All he does is catch touchdowns.
Especially with Watson out now, and he was on pace for 28 touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. There's no way he's going to do that. I mean, you don't think.
28 touchdowns.
But he keeps scoring.
Right, he's on pace for 28 touchdowns and was probably on pace for less than 60 catches. I mean, he didn't have a lot of catches, but every time he touched the ball, he's in the end zone.
Yeah, he had 28 touchdowns on 40 catches. I
think he had 28 against me last week from you. So I think it's kind of funny because last year Fuller was that sleeper guy that everybody wanted to pick. He was a sexy sleeper pick.
Blew up week 1 and week 2 and then disappeared. But it was completely different because he was getting crazy targets.
Right.
It wasn't the touchdowns, but.
And again, last year's quarterback play, right?
Yeah, that was.
Has a lot to do with it. You have a confident quarterback back there. Now that Watson's done for the season, I don't even think he's hurt. Hopkins is hurt because of this. That whole offense is hurt. You got to go with Amari Cooper.
All right, I'm gonna give you a couple more real quick. Let's just say a name and then not too much discussion so we can wrap this up. But Amari Cooper or Demaryius Thomas?
Cooper.
All right, Cooper or Devontae Parker?
Still Cooper.
Cooper or Jordy Nelson?
Still Cooper.
Cooper or T.Y. Hilton?
Still Cooper.
Cooper or Tyreek Hill?
Tyreek Hill.
Okay. All right, how about Cooper or Crabtree?
Crabtree's interesting, but I think Crabtree is the guy who benefits from Cooper. Cooper's the guy who can stretch the field. He's also a big guy who can come across the middle. He gets the double team. The safeties stay over top of him. Crabtree gets more one-on-one.
Everyone talks about how much better Crabtree is than Cooper. And Crabtree is I think he's a top 5 receiver coming in this week, or at least top 10.
Certainly.
But they don't realize, I don't think, that Cooper is the one that draws the double teams. He's the one that draws the help of the safety, that takes away from Crabtree, whoever Crabtree is. And I think that's why he's the more productive of the two. Which, I mean, at the same time, I guess helps you for fantasy reasons, but
which is exactly why I love Smith-Schuster when we talked about him, because everyone's looking at AB. Same thing here. Everybody looking at the kid Cooper, and the old man Crabtree can still get his. So he's a good receiver. He was the same as Cooper when he came out. He was highly touted. He was that guy.
He was from San Francisco. He didn't really do much in San Fran.
He didn't do much, but he fell victim to the same thing that Alex Smith fell victim to, and there was 5 or 6 different offenses in 5 or 6 years. Different offensive coordinator every single year. You see how Alex Smith has finally settled in and found a home, even though they went out and they drafted Mahomes. Mm-hmm. He's proven that he's the guy. That's his offense. I think Crabtree has done the same. He did start to have a couple good years before he came to Oakland, but he's definitely been the most productive here, and I think he's somebody you can count on, but it's still Cooper for me.
All right, good stuff. I think that's gonna really wrap it up for us. We touched on a lot of guys today. Talked some big time trades. Talked some some sneaky trades. Some guys at Target. Again, we didn't talk about our rankings, but I think we more than covered a lot of guys that should help
A
you.
lot of other stuff to talk about this week with the way it went
Yes.
down.
Yes.
That trade deadline was very Major League Baseball-esque.
Yeah, it was.
So-
It was.
A lot of people on the move.
And, for any help with your rankings, like I said, hit us. Go on our website, jnjfantasyflyers.com. Hit us up on Facebook, J&J Fantasy Flyers, on Twitter, @FantasyFlyers. Again, that's Greg sitting in for Joey. I think he's going to be back with us next week if he wants to. Until Joey comes back, I think he's gone one more week. I don't know. Things have been going pretty good. Maybe he'll join us as a guest occasionally going forward.
That'd be fantastic. I'd like to thank you for asking me to be on the show. It's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure. I love to talk football. Thank you guys for watching, tuning in. Again, it's been my pleasure, and hopefully we'll be back again.
Well, it's been real, and good luck in your Week 9 matchups.
Good luck.